So, since I'm giving you so many books, I'm also a realist that believes that you're not going to buy these and read these all. So I figured I'd do the cheat sheet for you. So this is your cheat sheet on Tony's book. The way you use this is the front of the card has little telltales about assertive and non-assertive people. Then below it, it has responsive and less responsive. Responsive people are emotion, less responsive are logic. So you ask yourself about this when you're talking to somebody. Then you flip the card over, and now the back gives you the traits, clues, dress, behavior, how to approach, and how to close each one of the styles. So that's the system and the process. And I have one more thing that I want to show you, and then we need to move on. What I'm about to show you with this system and process of understanding the style differences, there's not a sales trainer in the world that I'm aware of that's doing this piece, not teaching any of this. Watch this. Once you've figured out a person's style, analytical, driver, expressive, or amiable, what we want you to do is we want you to put that into your database right next to your prospect, customer, or client's name. Then before you get out of the car or on the phone, you look it up and say, aha, Jack's a driver. You take the white card out and say, this is the way I need to sell to this guy. I met Jeff here this morning. Thank you for your service. Thank you. I've worked with recruiters of our military for at least 5 years now on how to get them to be better at what they do. And I've learned a lot about the recruiting offices, and you change out personnel on a regular basis in those offices. But one of the cool things is, and how long it takes to get a kid from first contact into the boots can be a journey. Yes. And so what you can have is you can have one of your sales recruiters start with a kid but not be there for the end. But all the knowledge of understanding the person's style would leave in their heads. And so also with the rest of our civilian companies. But if we put it in the system, the next sales recruiter that came in dealing with the kid's coming in for an appointment, he knows the style, he looks it up, and he can match the style on day one as opposed to learning it all over again. Right. It's a massive competitive advantage to work with systems and processes. Okay? All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to head over to page number 7 with you. And page 7 and 8, in my opinion, are the most important pages in the workbook when it comes to selling. I'm going to teach you a system and a process that I call backward thinking. I would also put on page number 8 a note right now. Hopefully I've earned your trust. The note that I would put on there is this: redo page 8 for my business. Redo page 8 for your business. Because we have a lot of businesses in this room, I'm going to do a page 8 for you up on the board, but it's going to be generic. It's going to be something you can think about, but it won't be perfect for you. But for every business, there's a unique page 8. At the top of the page 7, filling in the blanks, it says, define success and chart back to the present. Stephen Covey would have put it this way: begin with the end in mind. There are 4 key components of backward thinking. If any one of these 4 is missing, the likelihood of you achieving success in sales is severely hampered. As a salesperson, the first thing that you must have is you must have your goals in writing. If your goals are not in writing, they're dreams, and dreams don't often come true, but goals in writing do. But if that's as far as you went, it is the equivalent of New Year resolutions, which have a history of not being effective. A physical fitness nut. If I'm home, I'm in the fitness center that I belong to for about 4 hours a day. I tell Jennifer, who books me on my speaking engagements, book me out all of January. I don't want to be near my home. January in a health club. Anybody know what that looks like? It's packed. All the New Year resolution people. Be healthy in 2014, join Health Club. Now if I go away for the month of January, come back in February, it's all back to normal. By the way, not just for February, for the next 11 months. That's a New Year resolution. Here's what really needs to happen. You need a written plan on how you're going to go about achieving those goals. And here is the most important word of the day. Activities, 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 activities. High payoff activities. Third, a system of measurement. And fourth, a system of accountability. You get all that together and magical things happen. Adam's my sales guy, and it's the beginning of 2015, and we're negotiating his goals, and he says, I want to do $1 million in sales. The first thing I'm going to ask him to do is document and prove to me that he's going to be able to do it. Is it too high? Is it too low? All of those things. Then I'm going to ask him to break his million down into months. How much in January, February, March, April, such that 12 of them add up to $1 million. In January, Adam says, I'm going to do 100,000. In February, he gives the number in March and April. And if I get a salesperson to break the annual into months, I get a salesperson that's getting closer. But hardly any company or salesperson I'm aware of takes it to the next step. I want Adam to break it down by week, a year in advance. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, such that 52 of them add up to $1 million. In week 1, he tells me he's going to do 30,000 of the million. In week 2 is 20, and week 3 is 30, week 4 is 20. And if I could get my salesperson Adam to break his annual into months and months into weeks, I have a guy that's getting really close to getting it done. All I need is for Adam to take that 30,000 and move it on to page number 8. And this is what we do with 8. We say, all right, week number 1, you said you were going to do 30,000. What I need to know is what are the key activities you're going to need to do that week in order to make that 30,000 happen. And for every business in this room, there's a unique list. But here's some of the things we might want to put on the list. I might want to know from Adam how much of the 30,000 is going to come from existing customers. We'll put that down. And how much is going to come from new customers? And we'll put that down. And then I might want to know how much is going to come from referral business. And we'll put that down. And I'm going to pause there for just a minute. Of the 3 categories that I just put you up on that board, the one that has the highest margin, let me put it another way, the one that is the least susceptible to price objection is referral. But hardly any salesperson in the world has a referral target on a weekly basis. But I do know this, things that get measured get done. So if you're looking to generate more high margin, less price sensitive business, then you should target and put down as a weekly goal how much of that referral business you're going to generate. 90% of my business is sold out by November before the year begins. 90% of that business is repeat and referral business. It's a sweet spot to play in. Next thing I might want to know from Adam is the number of outbound calls he's going to need to make that week in order to make that 30,000 happen. Maybe the number of inbound calls he's going to need to spend desk time at to make that number happen. The number of face-to-face appointments he's going to have that week to make that 30,000 happen. The number of presentations he's going to make that week to make that 30,000 happen. The number of networking events that he's going to be involved in that week to make that number happen. The number of trade shows he's going to do that week. The number of personal marketing initiatives he's going to undertake that week. And we could come up with a list for every business in this room of the things and activities that a salesperson needs to do in order to be successful. And at the end of every week, I would want Adam to come in and tell me what he actually did on every one of those line items. You show me a salesperson that does this, I'll show you a salesperson that knocks the ball straight out of the park. This page right here is called Hopes, Dreams, and Aspirations. This is the key to sales success. But I've never gone into a sales organization and introduced this to the salespeople and they went, "We like this." You don't like it. "Hey, I've been in sales, kind of let me go, do my thing." Inspect what you expect. We don't have the time today to go through it in detail, but let me just show you a glimpse of my system and process. All throughout the year, I'm gathering ideas on what I want to take on next year in my personal life. They're in the folder. In the fourth quarter, I take that folder out and I sort through it and come up with my personal goals. These are my personal goals this year. By the way, my personal goals are posted on my website at jackdaly.net for everybody to see. When I post these to my website, what have I just done? Increased accountability. Now, no matter where I go, people come up to me and ask me, "How you doing on this one? How you doing on that one?" Some people actually say, "I can help you on this one and I can help you on that one." I not only increase my accountability that way, but I have 5 people that are on the board of directors of my life, and I give this to them and say, "I've thought long and hard about what I want to do, and this is what I want to do this year. Would you meet with me for lunch 4 times a year at your leisure and bring this with you and make sure I'm doing what I said I was going to do?" There isn't a month that goes by where somebody isn't holding me accountable. And I carry it around in this calendar because every day of every month I write down every single thing I did that day that relates to anything that are in those goals. This is on the personal side of my life. At the end of each month, I have my key activities and month-by-month tracking as to how I'm trending, and if I want, I can look at where I was last year for a year-to-year, month-to-month lookup. And this is what I'm doing on the personal side of my life. Can you imagine how I built and run my business? And please, at the break, don't tell me they have an app for that. I know. I've been doing this by pen and paper since I was 13 years old. And I'm not going to change on the personal side of my life. Also on my website, what you could do is you could look up and see my quarterly reports that I write on the variances and how I'm going to get back on the bus to my board of directors of my life. And I would love for you to visit my website and read my year in review. This is my full year analysis last year, what worked, what didn't work, and what I'm going to do to make next year more successful. This is on the personal side of my life. Can you imagine how I am building and running my business? Goals in writing, a written plan with activities, a system of measurement, and a system of accountability. Now, here's the warning. Do not get to this level. This is evidence of a very, very sick human being. But if I could get you from where I normally find you, which is here, and get you to here, we got it. When you leave here, if the only thing you did was figure out page 8 and implement it, your income will go up and your sales will go up. I know this for a fact. We want to move on to page 9. Proactive pipeline management system. That's what this page is. I have a visual that you're going to do some drawings. Here's one of mine. Every salesperson should maintain 2 baskets connected to one another. The top basket we call prospects. People that have never done business with us, but we wish they were. When someone first initially buys from you, does business with you, it's a great day, it's a good thing, and we call them customers, and we all know this, customers are good to have. But customers are not the best thing to have. The best thing that you can build is a client basket. The difference between a customer and a client. A customer occasionally buys from you. You sell 10 things, a customer buys 1 of the 10 every 3 months. It's good. A client buys 7 of the 10 monthly. Successful salespeople build what's called a clientele. When you build a clientele, you don't worry about making your house payment, your car payment, and your lifestyle payments. And when you don't have to worry about those things, you can sell in the best interest of your customer, even if it means not me. But when you're up in this sector and you need that deal to close in order to make a house payment or a car payment, you're going to sell it to them whether they need it or not. Hey, Hank, here's my credit card. I need racing wheels. Perfect. Let me zip you up. And I'll walk out of there with those racing wheels at 13 miles an hour. And then I'll be riding out there, and a cyclist will say, "You go awful slow. Why would you have racing wheels?" And then I'll get educated that my bike guy just screwed me over. That's the way, and I'll tell everybody about it too.
They've lost a client.
There we go. Awful. Awful, awful, awful. And the reason they got in that situation is because he operated here rather than here. So I want to teach you how to create a client basket. So I want to learn from a master. Her name is Cindy. And Cindy worked in my company, and I had a company that did residential mortgage loans. We did home loans. Okay? Cindy, when she worked for me, was the 40th top salesperson in the industry in the nation. Let me show you what she did in a single year. $186 million worth of business. Whole companies weren't doing that. So whenever I find a salesperson that does business of that nature, I take them apart and see what's going on. And here's what we found. 90% of Cindy's business came from just 12 clients. Here's one of the things we're finding with top salespeople. They tend to call on less people and they do more business. The key is they call on the right people. Jeff over here is my sales guy. This is his sales territory. And here are all the people he's calling on. And I say, "Hey, Jeff, you're not getting enough business out of that territory." And Jeff leaves my office and says, "Man, I think Jack's serious this time." And I'm going to suggest that was the wrong move, Jeff. In my opinion, what Jeff should have done is identified the high opportunity accounts and called on them more frequently. In the middle of that page is a fill in the blank. There are many more sentences that go after it. Here, do it as best you can in your notes. Selling is the transfer of trust. People do business with people they trust. They get to trust the people they get to know, and they get to know the people they see more frequently. If we call on too many people in the marketplace, no one gets to know you, therefore no one can trust you. And so the word that we like to use is a word called focus, because focus precedes success. And the system and process that we use to get salespeople better focused is a process called inspect the baskets. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. Jeff is my sales guy. I sit down with him and say, who is the number one prospect that you're working on right now that if you land at that account, life gets really good? Who's number 2? Who's number 3? Who's number 4? And we work right down the list. Next thing I want to know is, when did you last touch them? How often have you touched them in the last 90 days? In what ways are you touching them? And here's a critical question. What's standing in the way of them becoming a customer of ours? What's standing in the way of them becoming a customer of ours? Who's your number 1 customer, number 2 customer, number 3 customer on down the list? How often are you touching? In what ways are you touching? What's standing in the way of them becoming a client? Who's your number 1 client, or number 2 client, or number 3 client on down the list? How often are you touching? In what ways are you touching? And what's standing in the way of them doing even more business with us? Any organization that isn't doing this with each salesperson at least once a month is leaving business all over the street. My better clients do this every week with every salesperson. And yet, I go into companies that are clients of mine and introduce this, and I make salespeople unhappy. Oh, but don't you trust me? You're giving me too short of a leash. Let me do my own thing. All of those things I've heard all my life. Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Inspect what you expect. Let's move on. Page number 10. So I want to tell you about page 10, and then I want to do it. Together, we have about time enough to stay till about noon. I was asked to speak till about 11:30ish, and then open it up for questions and answers. So I'll do that, which means that I've got about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then open it up for Q&A. I have to be full disclosure on this page, page 10. So I have clients that I've spent 12 hours on this page. We're going to spend 10 minutes. I can also tell you, there's a company, can I say that book again? There's a company out there called 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And they're headquartered in Vancouver, British Columbia. Brian Scudamore is the founder and owner and CEO of the company. He has a testimonial in my book here, and let me read it to you. No one person's mentorship and teachings have had a bigger ongoing impact on the sales growth of 1-800-GOT-JUNK than Jack Daly. Brian and I spent 12 hours on page 10. And when we did, the company went through hyper-explosive growth. And so all I can say is, given the amount of time we have together, I'm doing as good a job as I can to give you the meat. But this is a big, big page. First thing that I do on this page with my clients is ask them the first question. Who is your customer? Who is your customer? Let's do it with Hank's Bike Shop. Who is Hank's Bike Shop customer? Who's his customer?
Anybody that rides a bike.
Anybody who rides a bike. All right? So, remind me writing it up on the board. Anybody who rides a bike. Write down under who is your customer 2 words. These are the 2 words that open it up for my clients. Who else?
Everyone.
Everyone. Who else? Children. Who else? Athletes. Who else? Distributors. Who else? Sorry? Trainers. Who else? Who else? Finally! How much time did I spend on who is your swim coach in your business? Do you see what we just fell into? The trap. Sometimes your very best customer will never buy or use your service. I stressed it over and over and over again. This is less than 2 hours ago. And it took us, who else? Do you know it took me 5 hours with Brian Scudamore to open up the gates and find who else that was his leverage big deal? 5 hours. Who else? Do that exercise. The next thing that you do with my clients is, how much is a customer worth? So, let me show it to you this way. I had a mortgage company. I asked, who's my customer? You know what people say? Home buyers, homeowners. But if I ask who else, then I start getting builders and accountants and realtors and developers and insurance and financial planners and lawyers and all kinds of things. Well, if I did a $100,000 mortgage with a homeowner, back in the day when I did these loans, I make $1,500 in money, profit. But if I ask this, to write down this under how much is a customer worth lifetime, it's a lifetime value of a customer. Now you start to get some really significance. So now I have to figure out in my mortgage company how many mortgage loans will a person do in their life, and the average in the United States is 7. And a lot of people don't understand how you get to 7, but here's how you do. First home, relocation, second home, move up, refi. Easy to get to 7. 44 years of marriage, I lived in 25 homes, plus my refinances. Imagine what I've done to the average. So if I got all 7 at $1,500 in profit, that would be $10,500 lifetime, rounded off to $11,000. But then, if I said the customer was the real estate agent, and if that real estate agent sold 2 homes every month, but they really liked me because I drank wine with them and I golfed with them and we had kids the same age and we hung out together, and they gave me one of the 2 every month, and if I got 1 loan from that real estate agent every month for 12 months and I kept them happy for 5 years, that would be 60 deals over 5 years. Then I did the magic up there where I got $11,000. The real estate agent would be worth $660,000 to me. And that was on a $100,000 mortgage, and yet my office was in Los Angeles next to LAX, and our average loan size was $500,000. So now a real estate agent became worth over 5 years to me at $3 million a head. Cindy did 90% of her business from 12 real estate agents, and she made an incredible amount of money for her and me. And that's the value of going through that exercise. I'm trying to do 12 hours in 5 to 10 minutes. But I'm pushing to get to the last one, which is target marketing. And there is when I wanted you to take good notes. Everybody in this room should build a touch system. And I'll show you how to build it. 4 databases. First of all, remember what I was doing here. Inspecting the baskets. How often have you touched them? In what ways are you touching them? Remember that? 4 databases. Prospects. People that have never bought from us, customers, occasionally, clients, regularly, and then the 4th category, which I love, other. Star that. That's the swim coach box, and people overlook it. A touch is any way you reach out and let somebody know that you exist. A touch is a personal visit, PV. Face-to-face, belly-to-belly, that's a touch. A touch is a phone call, it's an email, it's a voicemail, it's snail mail, it's a fax, it's social media, it's any way that I reach out and let somebody know that I exist. Here's the statistic that I want to share with you. It takes 9 touches before they know you exist. It takes 9 touches before they know you're out there. Most salespeople quit at 5 or less. They haven't even heard you. Another piece of insight. If your touches are all about you and your company, you're blowing it. Because now you're selling again and people don't want to be sold. So what we recommend that you touch them is opening up and let the sun shine. And touch them with other things. For example, you could touch them with industry info and ideas. Not your industry, theirs. So, Cindy, I said, call on the realtor market. So, join the Realtor Association, attend the Realtor meetings, do presentations at the Realtor meetings, read the books, read the magazines and newspapers in the industry, write articles for those magazines and newspapers in the industry. Every time that you call on a real estate agent, bring them something to show them how to list a home, sell a home, show a home, how to them to make more money. Don't come in and say, here's my latest loan program, here's the rate and fee, because they're going to hand you somebody else's and say, somebody else has a lower rate. And then you're going to bring those 2 pieces of paper back and say, we need to lower our price. Bring them stuff that will help them be more successful. Bring them general business info and ideas. If you're calling on small to medium-sized companies, you should regularly be reading Inc. magazine and Fast Company. Because those magazines are chock full of articles that you could take a copy of, scan it into your computer, or take a copy of it and just put a note on it, saw this article, thought of you, hope it helps in your business. Fast Company.
That's Inc. with a C or?
INC. If you're calling on large companies, then you want to be reading Fortune, Forbes, and The Economist. Those are my 3 preferred magazines for big, large companies. Perfect for them. Self-serving. Here's my self-serving comment on this. My book there, Hyper Sales Growth, April 22nd, #1 best-selling book in Amazon business in 7 countries. The Amazon reviews by it are off the charts. Perfect to hand to somebody and say, this will help you in the business. And so general business info and ideas. You could touch people with things you know about them personally. Let's say I'm in your database. What do you know about me that you could leverage from a touch standpoint of a personal nature? Got to speak up, I can't hear you. Grandkids, how many do I have? 2. Boys, girls, or both? 2 boys. Do you remember Malcolm and Wyatt? Very good, okay. What else do you know about me?
Like to golf.
Like to golf. What else? Competitive athlete. What else?
You're a wino.
Wino, there you go. What else?
You're a driver.
Driver, what else? Fishing, what else? Huh? Well, if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. What else?
Like to travel.
Like to travel, what else?
Don't like to talk to people on planes.
Don't like to talk to people, period. What else?
You've been married 44 years.
Married 44 years. Know my wife's name?
Fun.
Perfect. You know what, guys? This has been impressive. You're doing a good job. Thank you. Now, when I have my clients, like the Vegas group, remember that? The 120, all from the same company? I told them all to bring their computers with them. They brought their computers, and now I stopped the session right now, and I said, open up your computers to your contact management system. They happen to be using Salesforce as their tool. I said, open up the Salesforce. I'm going to pick 2 people at random in the room. I want you to open it up. I want you to show me your prospects, customer, clients, and other. And I want to see all the personal information that you just told about me on them in the system. And if I did that with you, how would you fare? And I bet no different than them, which was horrible. Horrible. Do you know that I can go into my database right now and go, give me the golfers? Up pops the golfers. Any golfers in the room? Any golfers? Couple? Few? Interested in 2 strokes around or more improvement? Is it like that? Here's the book. Elements of Scoring by Raymond Floyd. I've given over 1,000 copies of that book. It will not teach you how to swing a golf club. It will tell you how to score. The Elements of Scoring by Raymond Floyd. Inside the jacket, I write the following. Read this book and practice what Ray Floyd says. It will improve your score per round by 2 strokes or more. Do not share it with your friends until you've taken all their money. Hit 'em well, Jack. Do you know how many times I have been hired to speak at a company and I'm meeting with the owner of the business and I'm in his office and I look over and on the bookshelf is the Elements of Scoring that I had sent him earlier that year? I think there's a connection. But I can do that because it's all sitting in my database. And by the way, you're working in my company and you leave, you get hired to take his place, you walk in on day 1 in the database is all of the personal information on the prospects, customers, and clients. Would that be an advantage for my new guy to have?
Absolutely.
Nobody's leveraging the system. Oh, been in sales for 10 years, kind of have my own style. And I'll beat you all day long with my systems and processes. And then I tell you that I think people like to have fun. So I touch people with things that are fun. Here's an example. I do photo cards right off of my iPhone, personalized to the person, even with my own penmanship down at the bottom. There's lots of services that you can use. I've tested many of them. The one that I like the best is called Send Out Cards. But there are a variety of different apps out there that you can use. The cards, I do them right off of my phone or my iPad. I put your address on, I write the inside, and I use the photo and I say send it to them and it's gone. I have a card in that stack that is 7 years old. Its card is responsible for sending me to Australia with my wife, all expenses paid for a month. I spoke to over 2,000 business owners, and now every year my wife and I go to Australia for 4 to 8 weeks a year. We do a bunch of business and then we just travel and enjoy the country. It's made me millions of dollars and the card cost me $3.50. Leverage, touch. Then what we say is, hey, listen, take the databases and put a grade to them, A, B, C, D. A, maybe you touch them every day. If Cindy gets 90% of her business from 12 real estate agents, she could touch them in some way with something every day. A B, maybe you touch them once a week. A C, maybe you touch them once a month. A D, maybe you touch them once a quarter. Then you just plow it into the system and schedule it accordingly and drop the green and the red in it. And once I've designed that, I can give it to a 12-year-old to do. I have one salesperson competing in the marketplace like this, competing with this guy. Who do you think is winning the day? So easy to build. System and processes, systems and processes, systems and processes. Page 11. Let me ask at this stage, how many of you have gotten at least 3 things that you could walk out of here with this morning and implement with your business and it would improve it? Cool. That's a pretty decent return on investment. Now let me give you a warning. 70% of the people that go to things like this do nothing as a result of being here. 70% of the people, no matter how easy we make it, leave and do nothing. You'll go to lunch, you'll get distracted after that, you'll have some things that you need to catch up on, and by the end of the day, this workbook may be lost. I was in New York on Thursday, and I did an open to the public sales session for 7 hours. At the end of it, there were 100 people there, give or take 5. There were about 100. At the end of the session, everybody left. And what I do is I just walk around the room. And what I'm walking around the room to do is some people leave my business card. Well, I don't want to leave it behind. Why not keep it and use it with someone else? I find some of these cards made it to the back of the room, and so they were extras. And so I'm just collecting my stuff. More often than not, when I'm walking the room after a 7-hour session, if there's 100 people in the room, 1 or 2 of these workbooks with their notes was left behind. What shot do they have? My stuff works, but if it stays in this room, it doesn't work. Okay? So, good intentions don't get anything done. Page number 11. I want to give you the concept. I'm not going to spend that much time here because hardly anybody builds the success guide, and that's how to build a success guide. Down at the very bottom of the page, there's a sentence. I'd love for you to circle it or star it. There's hardly anything that goes on a sales call that you couldn't anticipate before you arrive. There's hardly anything that goes on a sales call that you couldn't anticipate before you get there. As a result, there's no reason to not be better prepared. And so, at the very top of that page, I mean it affectionately towards top people. The best salespeople are canned. And what we mean by that is they say the same thing the same way each time they encounter a certain situation. The beauty of them is it doesn't sound canned. It sounds like it's the very first time they've ever said it. So I spent this past week in New York. I saw a bus go by me, and it had a big ad on the side of it. The longest running musical to date in New York, Phantom of the Opera. Imagine Bonnie and I having 6th row center seats. $300 for our seats. Show's been there for 20 years. 8 shows a week. 50 weeks a year. We're sitting there all anxious about seeing it. $300. And 10 minutes before the curtains to open, the whole cast is behind the curtain getting together and saying, 20 years, 50 weeks a year, 8 times a week. What do you say we go out and make new stuff up tonight? Is that what I want? You know what I want? I want them to come out that night and give me opening night. Do you know what a responsibility of a salesperson is? To be canned and yet deliver it as if it's the very first time. That's not easy. That's not easy. But it is lucrative to do.